Yeah, you have. That you said everything
Right.
you want to.
Well, I don't know.
Go ahead.
So what should we talk about now?
Well, if you're through with your teachers and your courses, then how about your political activity and your Komsomol membership?
Yes, well, I had to join the Komsomol soon after I turned 15. That was according to the rules adopted slightly earlier, was the minimum age at which one could become a Komsomol member. I had no intention of joining. Well, it's important to realize that the Komsomol membership wasn't as universal as, say, whereas I asked Irina Vladimirovna, and she confirmed that in her time it was practically universal. Everybody was a Komsomol member. Well, it wasn't at that time. Comparatively few people were Komsomol members at school. In our class at the university, and the university in general, the vast majority were Komsomol members. Not everybody. Adam Smorzhevsky wasn't, but he was far more advanced than I was in many respects. But the vast majority were Komsomol members. I had no intention. But then the Komsomol organizer in our school, it was a railway school, therefore it wasn't a Komsomol committee, but and not secretary of the committee, but organizer. He was acting as secretary of the committee. He was an older person, already a party member, and he was in charge of the Komsomol organization at school. He summoned me, and I have forgotten his name. Until very recently, I remember it very, very well. He was a Kazakh, and he said, «И что такое понимаешь, товарищ Утехин, не в комсомоле? Самый, понимаешь, хороший ученик и не в комсомоле. Что, понимаешь, скажет узловой комитет партии?» He kept saying «понимаешь», the way Yeltsin uses that word «понимаешь». So how is it that the best pupils were not Komsomol members, and what the party committee would say? I said I was only 15 years old and had just become 15 years old. And that was 1937. We must remember that. That was 1937. And he gave me the program and the statute, the rules, and I had to study those and then be considered as a candidate at the next meeting. And I came home and told my mother what had happened to me, and I cried. Literally, a 15-year-old boy doesn't cry very, very often, and I cried. I didn't want to become a Komsomol member. That was the last thing I wanted to do. And her response was very short and clear. Do you want your parents, your father and me, to be arrested? No, I didn't. That was the end of conversation.
Powerful argument.
Very powerful argument. 37. So I was duly admitted to the Komsomol, and was given various tasks when the Kratky Kurs began to appear in Pravda, first in Pravda, not as a book. I was given the task of conducting a class of that within the Komsomol organization at school. So I had to I had to cope with it even before it was published in book form.
I'm trying to picture that.
Yeah,
You're being-
well,
I am as well.
this all these you I hope it somehow, partly at any rate, makes it easier to see how it was that all these various efforts at understanding abroad and various theories of Soviet reality, how ridiculous most of them seemed to me. These were young American graduate students or something like that, reading for the first time the short course, or even perhaps not reading the short course, but reading about the short course. And they were appearing as if they were scholars, and they somehow attempted to teach. They attempted to refute someone like myself whose experience had been, they probably they hadn't been born or were in grade school at the time or whatever. But seriously, I was given the task, for example, of preparing candidates for membership in the Komsomol, and they were children of the exiled people. Worse than that, their fathers were in the camps, but the families were exiled. And now Stalin had just said, сын за отца не отвечает, so they could be admitted to Komsomol. But how? And I remember coaching them, so that they would. I knew what questions were asked, and I was preparing them for those questions. The most difficult one would be, now your father is an enemy of the people. What do you think? And they had to have an answer that was acceptable, and they had to join the Komsomol because otherwise they would certainly have no chance of higher education with their fathers being enemies of the people. At least that gave them some sort of a possibility. So that, when I said sabotaging, that clearly was sabotaging the purpose of the enterprise, but I tried to help them. And then you remembered another occasion when a friend of mine who already was a Komsomol member was accused of insufficient vigilance. Vigilance. His elder, well, he came from a rich peasant Siberian family from the Altai area, and they were dekulakized. The father disappeared. There were several brothers. He was the youngest, and they all dispersed. One of his elder brothers was a metalworker, machinist at the railway depot, local railway depot. He was a Stakhanovite, this, that, and the other, and then he was arrested as the son of an enemy of the people. And this was his brother. They were living together. They were living in the house of another classmate of ours. His parents were renting, I don't know, a room or part of a room or whatever to these two people. And so that friend of mine was accused of lack of vigilance, and he was to be expelled from Komsomol. The committee By that time I was already made a member of the Komsomol committee of the school, so I was reasonably prepared for that. And but I was the only one on the committee who didn't want him to be expelled. So the committee recommended expulsion from Komsomol. Now, to be expelled from the Komsomol at that time most clearly, most certainly would prevent his receiving higher education.
At the very least.
At the very least.
Yes.
At the very, oh, he could have been arrested. He could have been arrested. So, and then I was for some reason, I don't now remember how, I was to chair that meeting of the whole organization. And I managed to prevent his expulsion. There was a motion to expel by the committee. I myself introduced another motion to reprimand, perhaps strongly reprimand, I forget now what, but not to expel him. And then the question was, how do you vote? There are two motions, and there were no rules really of order. And I conceived the idea of preventing a triple possibility, that were to expel, not to do anything, or to reprimand. Now, if that was how the voting went, the what people call plurality, the relative majority, would be in favor of expulsion. But I was in the chair, so I said, now let's first decide whether to expel or not to expel him, and then we shall decide what to do with him. So, expel or not to expel. And the majority was for not expelling him. After that, my motion was voted on, and he was reprimanded. It was obviously understood that that motion would be. He was reprimanded, but not expelled. And I thought I had saved him, but he turned nasty afterwards and became very official and all that. And I lost a friend whom I had saved.
That's interesting.
But I lost him. I lost a friend. I simply couldn't stand that sort of.
Do you read a joke by Kundera? You know Milan Kundera?
Yeah.
It's something like this. A person who, joking,
Yes.
His joke was directed against the Communist Party, and his career was destroyed.
Yes.
He spent most of his life trying to get back at the officials who ousted him, so to speak.
Yes.
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 Do you want?
And I was the editor of the school wallpaper and stuff like that. But always tried to do something. Even in those days, that was disruption. That was disruption. And my mother was extremely afraid. And my father wasn't even arrested because we were in Karaganda. Somehow he wasn't, but we expected him to be arrested, if not both of them, almost any night.
Would you characterize your behavior there as extraordinary, or that that kind of behavior was fairly widespread?
Not widespread, but there were certainly such people who tried to do that. Not widespread. There was a minority of those who believed on that rubbish, a small minority, official rubbish. There was a large number of people who adopted the verbiage simply to survive. There were very many people who tried to be as aloof as possible from any of it, just to keep quiet and hope that they won't be noticed somehow. And there were some people like myself who tried to find ways in that situation of acting against it. My father didn't act, in any sense, actively encourage me, but I had the feeling that inwardly he was gratified.
It sounds like you had the model as well.
In a sense, but
Yes.
he kept very quiet during that time. He was never a party member. He had to run away twice.
It probably took courage on his part to repress his fear from him afflicting you with his fear, as it were.
Yes.
To
Yes.
contain
Ye-
himself.
yes.
He had to be afraid.
Oh, most certainly.
Yes.
Most certainly. He wouldn't have survived.
But he didn't express it to you, or didn't convey it to you.
No. It was my mother who was very obviously. She was afraid for him, first of all, but she could be arrested. The mother of Nina Fedorovich, Yosif Fedorovich's wife, was also arrested, and he, as we then thought, was sentenced to 10 years without correspondence. And if for a very long time I was still hoping that he had somehow been spared and had built Norilsk or something like that. He had built Kuzbas in the First World War. He had built Karaganda later. His special field was building coal mining enterprises, the coal mines, the actual mines. He was an engineer, and so I hoped that he had been employed for building something like that, but short, an outstanding engineer, very close to Pachinsky. They were close. The families were close. Nina's godfather was Pachinsky, and when he was arrested, he was still there. Unlike Ramzin, he was still there. And he'd figured as the well, in the English terminology, defendant. They weren't allowed to defend themselves. In the Schachter trial, he was the head of, and then at the Industrial Party trial, he was referred to as the head of the coal mining chain Tsepochka. They were supposedly organized along the various industries, and he was said to have been the head of that Tsepochka. An outstanding engineer, quite obviously. All the other engineers there were thought very highly of him. He was arrested again and disappeared and murdered. But his wife, much younger than he was also arrested. And last thing we heard in Moscow already, Nina was also in Moscow at that time. She was in that camp for wives of the enemies of the people in Akmolensk, as Tukhachevsky's and other Yakiev's wife was. And she was employed in when you prepare the material for bricks, there is clay, there's all sorts of other things, and it has to be what? What do you do? Месить in Russian, месить.
Mix.
Yes. Simply with the feet, large
Not in America.
vats, large vats, and these women,
No.
engineers,
You
wives.
pour concrete and then you smooth it out.
You do,
Or
yes,
whatever.
you smooth it out.
Whatever.
Sergei, probably what, when we fill in the gaps, we go back to
Yeah.
Karaganda. So perhaps now, staying with the history faculty and your political activity.
Oh, in Moscow.
Yes.
Well, political activity is
For the organization.
I'm not sure that one would, but it was certainly political thought, discussions, but
Plans.
but we didn't actually do anything. We
You did enough to get yourself killed.
oh, but no, what we were trying to think of was how to get rid of this. we, a few Moscow students,
About half a dozen of you.
something like that, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, and how to get rid of Stalin and all these.
Some of these were your fellow students and some were the friends from Karaganda. Or were they all students?
This is the difficulty. I don't remember whom I was talking to about these matters. Not to Volodya. We have discussed that now. Not to him. Now, he was my closest friend, but not to him. And this is the worst thing about it. I may remember, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was how to get rid of this, and I remember various steps, approaches, as it were. The first step was you had to get rid of the of this of what beclouds your minds. So use освобождение умов, the union for the liberation of minds. That was the first stage. So we were concerned about freeing our minds. I remember one aspect of it was that when the first volume of the fourth edition of Lenin's collected works appeared, I bought it and I read it from beginning to end, and I intended to buy all the subsequent volumes. I hadn't known Lenin. My parents' library was quite sizable, but there was no Lenin. I hadn't known Lenin, well, except those that were needed for the short course, but not. So, and I remember very clearly the purpose was to find out at what point Russia had gone wrong, and at what certainly Stalin and all that was wrong. But had Lenin always been wrong, or did he become somehow?
In which volume?
That was really the start of my study of Lenin, which occupied me for a very long time, for many years. It was only in Kiel, when I was seriously working on it, that I realized that he'd always been wrong. So there was a doubt. There was nothing of that stuff of Gorbachev's time, and Stephen Cohen and such people. Lenin was good, Stalin knocked it all up. No. But at what point had gone wrong? That was the first stage. Then we were talking about, I don't remember actually deciding that we had formed such a party, but a партия демократического возрождения России, party of democratic rebirth of Russia. But certainly a party. Now the party was identified with the Communist Party, but we knew about other parties and what sort of a party. The purpose should be clearly expressed in the name. Партия Демократического Возрождения России. Now, we were very vague about the program. Democratic, yes. Free, certainly. But what else?
And Russia, but not Soviet Union.
Russia, no. Oh, no. Soviet Union, how could Soviet Union be democratically reborn? No, Russia. Clearly, Russia.
And so that would exclude the other republics.
Oh, no, there was no discussion about boundaries and things like that. It somehow didn't concern us. We were concerned with the central questions. Republics were somewhere there. Certainly, we never thought of, let's say, the Ukraine not being Russia. That would have been completely impossible. But Transcaucasia, Central Asia, certainly when Kazakhstan became a separate country, I somehow felt that Karaganda was now in a different country, and that was a part of my own life. But no, we were not concerned about those matters. Very quickly, and about program in general, I didn't remember many discussions about programmatic matters. Very quickly, we sort of started thinking of how does one achieve that. Obviously, the first step was to remove all the people on top, and the idea we discussed was that they would all gather together in the Kremlin when the Supreme Soviet sessions occurred. Practically everybody who was anybody among the communists was there in the Supreme Soviet, and that they should be arrested. How do you arrest?
Yeah, small matter.
Serious question.
Well, first of all, we were against revolution. We were against the revolution. The concept of a revolution was too closely bound with the communist regime and all that, and we were against the revolution. We were against a defeat in war. We were not defeatists. So we were against that. But we discussed these. We discussed these possible matters. We want, if you like, a coup. But I don't think we call it переворот. Just you arrest those people. How? And there was a military school in the Kremlin. The visible part of it were those guards at the gates of the Kremlin and the Lenin Mausoleum, and they, it seemed to us, had the best opportunity and we thought that we ought to try and somehow conduct propaganda among them and enlighten them. Under the influence, obviously, of the short course, among other things, and particularly Udovsky's lectures on how they had conducted propaganda among the military in the past. Incidentally, I forgot to mention another episode about Udovsky. At one point he told us that, I think it was 1907 or 1906 or 1907, there was a mutiny in which Udovsky and others were involved, and they were caught and tried, and how they were defended by various lawyers, including Kerensky, Now Kerensky appeared in a very positive light. He was defending them, not what we were meant to read. Anyway, that was just about the end of it. To my knowledge, we never attempted to conduct any agitation among them. It's conceivable that some other people in that group, but I wasn't involved in that. And when the war started, I wasn't in Moscow. I was in Anapa. My mother had been ill for a year, and she was about to die, and so I went to Anapa.
I remember you telling me about the German airplane attacks on Moscow and getting up on the roof and
Yes,
observing them.
but that was later when I returned.
Mm.
I returned from Anapa in July.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Was it on the way there you were almost arrested when you